Tell us when, Dan.
Yep, sorry, I'm just waiting for YouTube to load up so I can be sure that that's up and running. And yep, YouTube is up and running. We are good to go.
Okay, I'd like to call this special meeting for April 1st, Board of Finance meeting to order. We'll start by the pledge. Let's all please stand.
Tell us when, Dan.
Yep, sorry, I'm waiting for YouTube to load up so I can be sure that that's up and running.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
And just
all. We're all over. All right,
okay.
we got through it.
I think so.
No public comment.
We got no public comment yet. As a reminder, anybody that's trying to make a comment, just hit the raise hand button on your screen, or if you just on a telephone, press *9.
All right, hearing none, let's move on to the presentation, Dan.
All right, and let's see, share presentation. Where's the presentation hiding? All right. So,
All right, what we have here now is we just put the agenda up here again for the public to see the meeting ID and would take the comments as we discussed. So let's go on to the next slide.
come on.
All right, what are we going to try to cover tonight? We're going to try to cover the roles of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance during this process. We're going to discuss the passing of the adoption of the budget regarding the pandemic and the governor's orders, the next steps in the process, which Steve is going to help us with, as well as Attorney Beecher, Board of Finance, the options in regard to the budget and if mandated by the Board of Selectmen, and points to consider. So who we have on with this meeting is Mr. Attorney Beecher is with us, along with Mr. Dunn as well, and Marcia and the full board. So next. So I think here, Steve, can you talk to this, Steve?
Sure. The Board of Selectmen is mandated by the state under the governor's executive order to direct the Board of Finance to set a budget and a mill rate. That is the be all and end all of it. We don't have a choice on this. The governor has mandated it. The only way we can lift that is if the governor lifts that executive order. My guess is, and I think everyone's guess is, he is not going to lift that order. So that's where we are.
So what you're saying is, right now, you don't have the choice to go to referendum?
No, we do not have the choice. We're mandated by the executive order to mandate the Board of Finance to establish a budget and a mill rate. We're going to be meeting Monday, and we're going to have to follow that mandate by the governor.
In that mandate, wasn't there a comment that you could postpone the referendum by 30 days?
You can push the process off by 30 days.
Yep.
Right now, there is no referendum. It's not allowed.
But we can push the process off by 30 days.
We can push your 30 days off to set the budget and set the mill rate. Still, is no referendum allowed.
Understood.
Okay.
By the current mandate from the governor. Right. I understand it. Believe me, and it's not you. My suggestion would be that we push it off, or I would suggest to the board.
Mark, can we go through? Let's hear all the options first. Let's hear what's allowed, what the options are before making recommendations, I think.
I agree with that, Dan.
Yeah.
So Steve, I have one question before
I
we go
kind
to
of
the
want to
next
understand
slide.
it too, yeah.
Is it your, Stephen, we're all behind you, Steve, so let's be clear. We're, this is not a us versus you, or we're behind you. So we're just trying to understand it. Do you also mandate the 30 days? Is that your purview, or is that something we decide?
Board of Selectmen makes that decision whether it's appropriate to push this process off by 30 days.
30
Right.
days from when exactly?
You can go to May 5th, I believe.
Let's go to the next slide, like Dan said, because there's Mr. Beecher's words here.
Okay, here we go.
So this was Mr. Beecher's words in emails today, and he can say if we're wrong. I copied them verbatim. I mean, so if they're wrong, I made a mistake. But we have to approve the budget by May 5th. That's what Steve just said, right, Steve?
Right.
Or you could issue the 30-day extension.
Correct.
Which gets us to June 5th.
Yeah.
Well, no, we have to set it according to, well, that's what the other paragraph that Mr. Beecher sent is the bottom paragraph there. If we finalize the budget on May 5th, we have to set
Can we
the
put
mill
that-
rate by May 20th.
I'm
No,
sorry,
Somewhere
Dan, can you
between
put it-
somewhere between 8 and 14 days, right?
Steve, you agree?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I know I'm having difficulty asking the question too, so don't feel bad. That last paragraph on this slide is what Mr. Beecher said. Do you agree with that last paragraph?
Dan, can you put the slide back up?
Oh, it is up.
Not on mine, it isn't.
I see it.
I see it
I
too.
don't see it. There we go, okay. Oh, your picture's up.
Ricky, can you go on mute?
Yep.
I agree with what the town attorney is saying here.
Okay, let's go to the next slide then, Dan.
Come on, computer.
So this was what Mr. Beecher sent today, Stephen, the slide you asked us to put in. So in a
Correct.
normal year, those are the dates that we would work to.
Correct.
The second
Yep.
part of this slide is what's mandated right now.
Yes.
The only
We keep
diff-
saying that.
Go ahead.
We keep saying that, but there is an option. Option 2 is to delay this all by 30 days. So this is not the only option that we have by the governor's mandate. He also mandated that it could be all pushed off. That's the only reason I brought it up early, Dan,
Yep.
is so that we
I
understand.
agree with you.
Because all of these slides talk about the one option. There is another option.
So, and so that's, so the Board of Selectmen can change the May 5th to June 5th. And that's,
Yes,
so
we could.
that's a Board of Selectmen. Is Mr. Beecher on?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
sir.
So everything that's been said so far is correct. There's only two options because this is mandatory. No ifs, ands, or buts. The governor, to protect the safety of the citizens, issued this executive order to bypass any public votes on the annual budget process, which would include the annual town meeting and the referendum. So the option is, one, to go forward with the dates as set, which would be to finalize the decision by May 5th, which is normally the annual town meeting date. And the Board of Finance's duties are usually done or are done by that date. Or the Board of Selectmen does have the authority, but they're the only ones. They have the authority to extend everything out up to 30 days. The only things that would be extended out would be changing May 5th to June 5th, and then setting the mill rate sometime after whenever the date is that the Board of Finance determines the budget. But there will be no annual town meeting or referendum unless and until the governor lifts the executive order. And obviously, if that got lifted, there would be an opportunity to potentially schedule an annual town meeting and a referendum, but you have to have enough time from the date of lifting the order to actually publish notice of the annual town meeting and then have the 2 weeks after the annual town meeting for the referendum date. And I guess the question we all have to look at is, what's the reality of the governor being in a position to lift this order between now and Memorial Day?
Mm.
I have one more question to ask, Mr. Beecher, if you don't mind.
Sure. Call me Tom.
Tom, I'm sorry, sir. If I don't know the whole statute like behind if the vote failed. If we were to we push this out 30 days and the vote fails, I remember there was a time limit of like passing the budget or not that we had to live within. Is that extended out if it were to fail multiple times, or what happens if the vote fails twice? And I'm not saying it's not a good budget. Let's be clear. This is a what if.
There is no vote at the moment.
Right, but if there were, if we were to wait this 30 days, if Steve chose to, and that's Steve's decision or Board of Selectmen, and we go to vote at the end of June, June 21, that vote fails. And I'm not saying, again, it's not a good budget. I think it's a good budget. It fails. Do we have unlimited time to pass it, or is there like a time limit on the backside of that?
No, you can keep on going until you get one that passes. And there is a statute, and the charter also refers to it. There's a statute that allows the town to carry forward, and that would be the Board of Finance, as well as with Marcia, using the current fiscal year's budget.
Yep, okay, okay.
So, Tom, if I may ask a question, the governor doesn't necessarily have to lift the order. He has another option to make another mandate, because he left that. He had wording in there that any mandate can be superseded by his next mandate or future mandates. So he could just change. He wouldn't necessarily have to even lift this one. He could, in theory, put another mandate in saying, boy, things are going great and people could vote. Correct?
He could, yes. Because there have been executive orders already that have changed or superseded prior ones.
Exactly. So, and then we all talked about, we're all discussing the ability to hopefully, maybe it's a pie in the sky hope, but we're all talking about if we had the 30 more days, maybe it gives us the opportunity to vote. The other thing it does, if we don't have the opportunity to vote, it gives us 30 more days of information on the impact, the financial impact to the taxpayers and the school and everybody of the coronavirus. So I just want everybody to see where I'm coming from on this.
I agree with you on that, Mark. So Tom, the sole right of the Board of Selectmen to choose to extend, is that specifically written in the statute? Was that clarified on a follow-up conversation, or is that an interpretation?
No, that's in Executive Order 7C, which is a different executive order, but it's in 7C, which allows the budget deadlines to be extended by the Board of Selectmen.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, let's go on to the next slide, Dan, please. These were just some of the questions that we had. I think we answered a lot of them. So, but we can, you said, Tom, many towns are not delaying the 30 days. That was from you.
Yes, my understanding, it locally, as a matter of fact, Bethel and Ridgefield are going with their normal dates. I believe, although New Fairfield's not a charter town, but I believe they are going to be finalizing in June. Okay. And I'm not quite sure what New Milford is doing at this point.
But none of them are sending it to referendum. No, they can't send it to referendum. So unless this is lifted.
Correct.
All right, next slide, Dan. So this is what you had sent to us earlier, Mr. B or Tom. Right. The normal, what's mandated with the dates we just talked about, and what happens if Steve and the Board of Selectmen were to delay the 30 days. Those are pretty much the dates.
Yeah, with the exception of in the middle there was some discussion today, and the mill rate could be determined after May 5th.
Okay.
If you see the middle column.
Yes, sir. Yes,
for everybody
sir.
else looking under April 21.
Yep.
What would be after May 5th? How far out would we be able to do that?
Just the 15 days by charter.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So the 20th.
Right.
Okay. All right, next slide, Dan. So we would have, Steve, the way I'm understanding the process says, Steve and the Board of Selectmen are mandated to put this onto the Board of Finance. As of now, there will not be a vote. The next step is Steve and the Board of Selectmen determine whether they want to give us the 30 days or not 30 days to do this within. That's at their discretion, Steve's discretion. Then we then have a choice of, we can keep the budget as we proposed it in March 9th, 18th. We can increase it or decrease it accordingly after the town hearing, Tom, correct?
Correct. You are now the budget maker.
So we can, and I'm not saying for everybody listening, not saying, but we could add 500,000 or take 500,000 away, and it's strictly on us.
That's
Correct.
correct.
And I just remind you, and I think you know this anyway, but that rule hasn't changed. You can only tinker with the bottom line on the Board of Ed side.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
no line item, right. The bottom line, yes. Okay. So as part of this, and I wanted to put out there, just for our board and part of this meeting is, there's two sides of this story, obviously, that we got to pay attention to, or there's three sides. And that we'll have at our next meeting. How's that? I think it's not this meeting. This is just informational. You know, we've had some people write to us and you know, leaders in our town that have said we need to think about increasing due to the added cost of the coronavirus. And they brought some good concerns to the table. And I think we had to listen, but we also have the flip side of that. If there's a lot of people out of work, we need to consider all the options. So that was just for us and the town. So the next slide. All right, so next steps in the process, I think, are pretty well defined. Steve needs to decide from the Board of Selectmen what they're gonna do. If they decide on the 6th that we're gonna move forward, no 30 days, we would have our town hearing April 7th as we scheduled. If Steve and the Board of Selectmen elect to go 30 days extension, we would push the virtual town meeting out to May. And then give us a chance to go the first week of May after their Board of Selectmen meeting in May, we would do that. I think that's pretty much it. Am I missing, Steve? Am I missing something?
No, you're not. The Board of Selectmen is going to discuss this on Monday. I have discussed it briefly with Sue Slater because we can do that in caucus. I have not discussed it with Harry Shaker. We would like to see, I think, very good reasons for extending this 30 days. I think you guys have spent, and we've spent, hundreds of hours creating a budget that we believe will pass, creating a budget that works for the town next year, and creating a budget that will be voted on yes by most of the residents. The ability to vote now has been taken away by the governor. And I think he had some good reasons for this. Towns need to continue to operate. Towns need to continue to provide the services that we've always provided to our residents, especially in a time when people are not working or losing jobs. There are a lot of programs out there to help people. Unemployment is going up at least up to $600 per week for the unemployed. It includes contractors and the self-employed. So that's going to help a lot of people who work for themselves. There is small business administration loans, which will be forgiven if you keep your employees on your payroll. So the government and the state are addressing a lot of the issues. When it comes to looking at what changes that there might be in the budget for next year for handling this pandemic, we're looking at that very carefully. We do have some expenses right now, computers, some other things that we're doing, some additional staffing in EMS, but it looks like FEMA is going to cover 75% of it. And oh, and by the way, for New York, they're going to cover 100%. So I talked to Dick Blumenthal this morning, and he's going to have a heart-to-heart with the director of FEMA about that. It doesn't seem fair that one state gets 100% and we get 75. What are we, sliced bananas? I don't know, what's the expression you would use? So the Board of Selectmen would need to see, and we'll have a pretty substantive discussion on Monday, but I am right now leaning towards not extending 30 days. I think the more unrest, the more uncertainty that we have, I think residents want to know government's going to continue to run, that the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen have done their job under the current orders that we're under. The budget you guys have finally created is a very good budget, I think. It passed 6-0. with everyone believing that this is a budget that town residents could support. And my opinion now is, to avoid what happened in 1929, now is not the time to be laying people off, or we'll get into a never-ending cycle of de-escalation with people not working, and it could be horrible. We have to lean in a little harder. We have to work a little harder. I'm comfortable that we can handle anything that comes up in the next year within the budget we have right now. I think on the school side, they are looking to, if they don't have a good answer for the budget by May 1st, they have to send out termination letters, notice of non-employment to 92 teachers. It's the law, that's what they have to do. They would prefer not to do that. And I agree with them. We need to keep everything as stable as possible. So I'm leaning against, if I can hear really good arguments that say, yeah, we should extend for 30 days, I'll certainly consider it. I'm open to that. I do not think, given all the information we're getting from our Director of Public Health, from the CDC, from the state, that we are anywhere near the end of this. We're not. This is another 2-3 weeks at least till it peaks. And then there is going to be a rather long period that it winds down. But during that period, we have to maintain our defenses. We have to stay self-isolated. We have to treat everyone as if they have the coronavirus, or we'll never get rid of this thing. So I could easily see where we come out of this in the end of June, July, before we could have a vote. And the other thing I'm a little concerned about is our poll workers. Our poll workers are on average well over 60 years of age. They are in the single most vulnerable group. We might be able to get some town employees to step in and work at a poll, but our poll workers are critical to us, and I don't want to put them at risk. So if people can come to the Board of Selectmen with really good reasons for extending 30 days, we'll certainly listen to it. Thanks.
This is
Glenn, can we
Marcia.
go around the horn- can we go around the horn and give our opinions on that one by one, or is that what you intend to do here?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide, and then we'll go around. The next slide starts the process. Then we'll bring in Marcia. All right, I also had a conversation with Rosa about her concerns about the teachers like Steve did. Yeah, I think it's important. I know this is an annual thing though. The schools do it every year. This is not something that's extraordinary due to the virus. This is something every year by law, they have to send out the slips to the teachers that are not tenured or whatever it may be. I do understand their concerns of not losing good teachers and all of that. Then it's like, what do we gain by waiting 30 days? And I think that's what questions that we have to go around the board now of where do we see the benefits? Where do we see the negatives? So Marcia, you want to jump in, go ahead, and then we'll work around. How's that?
I just wanted to talk about this whole process is with the annual budget. We also have the capital projects and the debt, and maybe Tom could talk to that a little bit. Because right now, as far as I know, that is not affected by any of this.
Mr. Rooney, do you want me to address that?
Yes, sir.
Right now, there is no executive order that handles that situation one way or the other. Although, as I explained to Steve, rumor has it that the governor will issue one, but for the time being, the capital projects bond resolution would still need to be voted on at referendum. Recall that the Board of Selectmen bypassed the town meeting aspect of it, but set the referendum date to be May 19th for that. So
Yeah,
we'll have to
Tom,
wait. We're gonna have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, Tom, but that is for the bonded capital, not the cash capital.
Right, that's for the separate referendum, correct?
Right, it would be a separate referendum. So our bonded capital, we're gonna, at this point in time, we're going to have to wait. We have to have the town meeting and we have to have a referendum for the bonded, not for the existing cash budget.
Understood. But we also can't safely have a town meeting, so I'm
Not
going to
yet.
have to do something about that.
Yeah, I think the governor is gonna have to do something about that.
So I agree with you on
But Tom,
But the-
do we have to have that at the same time as our annual town meeting? Could
No.
we set any town
No.
meeting date for that?
No, and we've moved it before, I believe, but the Board of Selectmen has the option to actually cancel that referendum date for the bond resolution and reset that clock.
Marcia,
We
you
just like
got-
to do it. I'm sorry, we like to do it on the same date to save the money of having a second vote.
Sure.
Did you get the answer you needed, Marcia?
Separate issues going on here.
We're aware.
All right, Dan, you want to start the roundtable?
Sure, I guess. I would strongly encourage the first selectman and the Board of Selectmen to extend the date by 30 days. I firmly believe that more information is better. I personally have some questions about different ways to address some of the concerns without adjusting perhaps the expense side of the budget, but adjusting the mill rate. Are there ways that we can use projected surplus? Are there ways that we can dip into the fund on a temporary basis that don't impact our bond rating? I wouldn't mind having a conversation with our financial advisor about that. Polling other towns. I know that other towns are dipping into surpluses to mitigate tax increases during the difficult time. I just feel that there's a lot of different pieces of information that can be gathered in a 30-day period that would help us. I understand the desire for clarity. I understand the desire for people to know what the story is, but I think that's outweighed by making a rash or quick decision versus making a decision based on full information. So I would encourage the Board of Selectmen to extend the 30 days.
All right, we'll go around the table, Steve, and then we'll let you comment at the end, okay? Is that fair?
Yep.
Mark, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'll just read my bullet items that I had thought on this. Dan covered some of them, but I'll just speak on them again. I'm obviously in favor of the Board of Selectmen postponing them. I think that the more information we have on the impact of coronavirus, the better off we're going to be to make an informed decision. It does give the voters the chance to vote, which is a constitutional right, probably one of the most important ones. At this point, Lamont has only closed the schools until April 20th. So what we are in effect saying is Lamont doesn't know what he's doing, just closing the schools till the 20th. He's thinking the schools may be able to open after that, and we're still taking the vote away from the voters. I think that's a mixed message. Termination letters, like you said, termination letters to the teacher is kind of routine. I would like us to find the effects of using the general fund to offset the mill rate. The general fund's a rainy day fund. I don't know that it's ever going to get rainy. I hope it never gets rainier than it is right now. So that was all I had.
All right, Eileen?
I have no objections to extending for the 30 days. I know I think of the same thought process that the more information we have, the better. Realistically, I don't foresee a referendum being a safe option everything that I've seen public health wise, modeling wise, we're still, even if we hit the peak in mid to end of April, we're still going to have a lot of cases. So, as Steve had mentioned, with the vulnerable population that are our poll workers, that's a huge consideration I think we need to consider, but I don't necessarily see the harm of waiting the 30 days. I think it gives us more time to get more information, see what types of trends we're seeing with expenses on both the school. I mean, it seems like the school mandates are changing on a daily basis, how contracts are being handled, what the expectations are and all that. So I think that's a moving target on the school side, but I think my initial thought had been if there end up being any savings, maybe that we can help reduce, we'd put money in contingency in the thought of potentially covering some extra expenses that may get hit because of the cut that we made on the school side of the budget. So, if we have some idea of trends, then maybe we can help reduce the increase a little bit by maybe possibly reducing the contingency fund.
You good now, Eileen? Can I move on or?
You can move on.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you. Brianna,
Yes.
your points.
I'm with I'm with the 30 days. I feel like it gives us every possible chance to understand the virus and its impact on our community. As Mark made a good point about right now, the schools are only closed until April 20th. Obviously, things are changing week by week. So things could get better, things could get worse, things could stay the same. And I think if 30 days gives us every bit of information that we need to make an informed decision, you know, voting is a big deal and it's a right for everyone. And if we can't exercise that and we have to do it, then it would be good to have every bit of information possible prior to us having to make that decision.
Okay. Ricky?
Hey, I 100% agree with Dan on his points, to push for the 30 days to get the best possible revenue update, either leftover and current year budget if there is any, and there may not be, and that's fine, or any impacts on the upcoming budget on revenue, specifically perhaps constructions being delayed due to the pandemic, or I mean anything else. We already dropped our interest income projection. Is that could that potentially change? Are things bleaker than we may have imagined 4 weeks ago? We don't know. So I think the longer we have to at least be able to better analyze the revenue side of things, I think that would be the best for the budget overall, whether it swings, good or bad. I think that's what we have to really pay attention to. On the expense side of things, though, I feel like, that in my eyes is set in stone. I wouldn't touch that. That's just my opinion.
All right, so I get to close it out, huh? So here we go. All right. One, Steve, I want to thank you for what you've done and how you've handled the process so far. Two, you've heard our board's thoughts and processes of what we'd like to see, but I'd like you to know we will, as a team, support you and the Board of Selectmen in a time of need. You've heard our concerns, but we are here for the town, and we're willing to support you in your decision for the good of the town. I think we can all agree to that. I mean, we've said our opinions. We'd like you to hear them. I am also of the agreement of the 30 days waiting to get the information, but I'm going to throw a caveat out there, and the rest of the board can yell and scream at me if they want and kick me. I'm okay. I think we're all in the opinion that our budget that we set is good, and we would not make any changes unless there is extenuating circumstances that made the changes, whether it be the good or the positive, or Dan was mentioning revenues and how we can move things. Eileen was also, but I want to give the Board of Ed comfort that this is not an opportunity for us to just go cut a budget on them or cut the town side. I want to make sure that we give some support level of decisions won't be taken lightly if it's in our lap. And the only way we're moving the needle is based on data given to us behind a good argument. You think, is that correct, board? I mean, from your opinions?
I would agree with that in principle.
Dan, Ricky,
Yeah, I think that was-
Eileen, Brianna?
I think that was well said and important to say. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
Can I add one more thing, Glenn? Oh, sorry, Eileen.
I didn't hear her.
Sorry, I didn't project my voice.
So you're okay with it too, right? We want to, make sure everybody's not going to go into a panic of anything.
Yeah. No, there's so much unknown right now, and to have some better knowledge of where things are at, I think would make it a better decision.
But like I said, I want to give the Board of Ed a little comfort that we're not moving things without it has to be something we all agree on, and it has to be a needle mover, right? It has to be a needle mover, right? Okay.
Can I add one thing,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So the the Education Department, Administration, Board of Ed did an absolutely wonderful job figuring out how to do distance learning in basically 3 days. Had you asked any of us if that was possible, I think everybody would have said there's no way that was going to happen.
True.
And while I want to give them all the credit for that, maybe there's a slim chance the state figures out a way that we can all do internet voting, which we've all been talking about for probably a decade. And maybe 30 days or 45 days from now gives them an opportunity to figure that out. But I know they better be working on trying to figure that out. If it doesn't work for this, it better happen in the future. So it also gives the opportunity maybe for something like that to come.
Okay. Anybody comments before I turn it back to Steve? Steve, your floor. You heard what we said. Your turn to comment or not comment. How's that?
You know I'll always comment. I got Mark sitting at the end of the table. I'm going to comment. Yeah, I think the board will take in your considerations. One thing I would like to reiterate is that Mark had mentioned we'd all like to vote. Right now, the governor has taken that away from us. There is going to be no vote right now.
Steve, I understand that, and
Right.
believe me, I'm not putting this on you.
No, I know you're not putting it on it because it's on both boards to do the right thing. It's not the Board of Selectmen, it's not the Board of Finance, we have to work together. But I don't want residents to think that the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance is taking away their right to vote. We are not doing that. We all want to have a vote. I think we would pass this budget. In a normal year, this is a good budget, it's been worked on like crazy, and I think it would pass in a normal year. This is not a normal year, we all know that. So we have to look at what is going to happen with our budgets. On the revenue side, yeah, we might get a little drop in building permit fees and things like that. But remember, the construction industry has been exempted from not working. So the major projects that are moving forward are going to continue to move forward. Brookfield Village came to us. They've asked for a 2-month delay because they're having trouble because of people working from home and slowing down, and a lot of their subcontractors weren't prepared to work from home. So they're asking for only a 2-month delay in their start, which we'll probably give them. So we might have some land use fees go down. We'll definitely probably get some dog license fees go down. But remember, the vast majority, over 90% of our budget, is fixed in either state grants of 1.7 million or so and taxes. And we're going to collect our taxes. We are. Even if people get behind on their mortgage, the mortgage company is going to pay the taxes because they don't want the houses to go into foreclosure. So I think on the revenue side, we're in a good place. On the expense side, yeah, we could encounter some expenses that we didn't anticipate in our budget. But from what we see, there is going to be individual assistance from FEMA. That means individuals in town, residents, can apply for assistance. They have not dimensioned what that assistance will be. And knowing FEMA, it'll probably be 45 pages long to just describe one type of assistance. But Greg Dembowski is already working on that, and he's a FEMA expert. So we have, I'm all for, I want to have a vote. I really do. I think it's the right way to do it. And I'd love for us to be able to do ballot or electronic voting. I think the chances of the state being able to put that in place in the next 45 days is near zero. I do. So the Board of Selectmen, I appreciate everyone's comments. There are good arguments for both extending the 30 days and for just getting the process done so that people understand. Remember, if the thing is, if we don't extend 30 days, you still have a significant amount of time to make a decision. We're not saying we vote next week to mandate you do it, and you have 3 days to make a decision. That's not true. You're going to have a few weeks to actually look at that and look at what's going on. So extending 30 days is really giving you like 18 days, something like that. So we have to look at it because it's not going to be the full 30 days, right? It's only to May 5th.
No, it pushes it from May 5th to June.
I'm sorry, May 5th to June 5th.
So it gives us 30 days.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I was thinking about that wrong. So
That's okay.
We'll look at it. We do appreciate, and we want to get input from every resident if they want to give us input and send me an email. You can just put first selectman at brookfieldct.gov or ston at brookfieldct.gov or just anybody at brookfieldct.gov, and it will find its way to me with your comments. And we respond to every single email. So we do want to get input from people. And that's pretty much it from our side.
Anybody else from our side want to comment?
I'm good.
Mr. Beecher, Tom, do you want to comment on anything that you may have heard that you would like to address?
No, I think we've all got it pretty straight. It has nothing to do with the town of Brookfield. It's the governor's order that has forced the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to make these decisions.
Well, and to be fair to the governor, although I'm not a fan, as many of you might be shocked, the coronavirus hit all of us, you know, for a loop, and he's reacting as much as anyone else with the information at hand. So
Yeah.
I don't want us to just
Yeah,
make him out to be a bad guy.
No, I was just clarifying that this isn't a local decision.
I appreciate that, Mr. Beecher.
Marcia, you want to add anything before we go?
I would only say that the selectmen, the 30 days, they don't have to do that right away. If later on they decided to do that, they could do that, correct, Tom?
Well, that's correct, but the Board of Finance kind of needs to know so that they don't decide to go and approve a budget 3 weeks from now, only to find out that it was going to get extended the next week by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah,
I'm fine with having the legwork done ahead of time, being ready by April 21st, and on the 20th, they make a decision that he's going to extend it. I'm okay doing the work twice. We gotta get it right. And I'd be prepared, and I'm sure everybody else would be if we had to.
So Tom, the Board of Selectmen could not make a decision Monday night and hold off making that decision to extend. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
That's the second option. Third option.
Then we would cancel the April 7th town hearing, correct?
No.
No, what?
No,
We have to operate, if you don't extend it, we have to operate as if it's not extended.
Right, if they extend it Monday, then we can cancel that meeting. But if they don't extend it, we could have that meeting and have another one if he does extend it later on.
But
That's what
that's
I was going to say. I agree with Mark. You know, Mondays, your hearing next week doesn't necessarily mean it's the only hearing you're ever going to have.
I mean,
Yeah, you
isn't,
could 2 or 3.
And with no referendum, it may be nicer to have more than one anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
is my calendar off, but is Wednesday 8th our normal meeting?
Yes,
So we're having a normal meeting next week regardless of the situation.
correct.
Okay.
We're going to do this again next Wednesday for sure.
But I just want to make sure I get this right, but if the board decides that we have to make the vote, then we also are meeting Tuesday the 7th. Or no?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Sorry, everybody.
Well, that's a good point.
I just
it
wanted to
clear.
get that, a lot of dates. Thanks, Dan.
Once we have the town hearing, there's no constriction on the dates to pass the budget then? There's no certain amount of dates before we have to do something else?
Other than May 5th.
Other than May 5th. All right. Perfect. That's perfect. All right.
So I would suggest if you have a public hearing, and then if you actually make changes to the budget, that you have another public hearing just to discuss it. At least one more.
Oh, if we make any changes, we do it in front of the public because like we
Right.
talked about, it's got to be something that we agree on and that we discuss. It's not just a pencil to paper thing.
Glenn, I think I want to expand on Mr. Beecher's comment that about time constraints. So if the 7th we have a public hearing, we would have to close those by the 21st of April unless the Board of Selectmen grants us an extension. So there would be it's not really May 5th. There is a deadline of the 21st where we would have to be done with our further public hearings without an extension, just to be clear. Because then we have to submit it on the 24th to be ready for the 5th.
Tom, that's correct, right?
Correct, as far as the closing of the hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Because then we have paper to take.
Right.
All right, so
I just
basically, Monday's the day. Steve and the Board of Selectmen are the next step in the process.
Steve, will you email us your decision?
Yes,
Yes, I can't watch your meeting. I think I have wetlands.
yes. Well, we record it. You can stay up late and watch it. It's exciting stuff.
Not as exciting as wetlands.
All right, I think that we don't have any public comment then. Any public comment, Dan?
We don't have a
don't see
slot for
public
public comment after new business.
Okay, then I apologize. This is a new meeting. All right, so then pretty much I think we're done here, correct? Anybody else got to add anything?
Nope.
I'm good.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's over. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank
Yep,
you.
bye.
Bye.